There was a time when games getting sequels was almost a given as a means to seek out just how far a developer's vision can go. Early in PlayStation's life, this was a far less risky path to travel as the time investment needed was so short. With technology having been in a place far more suited to animated and stylized characters, sequels helped define the mascots of a generation, and it happened fast. PlayStation 1 was able to birth trilogies of multiple icons via Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and God of War, all franchises of which still carry themselves with weight today. Each franchise was able to quickly implement feedback by greatly enhancing their gameplay mechanics and presentation in short timeframes. Advancements were found in gameplay rather than visual fidelity. PlayStation 2 took icon status to uncharted territory with Jak and Daxter, Ratchet & Clank, and the introduction of Suckerpunch Productions via Sly Cooper. Platformers were the name of Sony's game, and they played it well. You can see the DNA of all of these franchises bleed into everything that these respective studios created after. It's often why the opportunity to flesh out a franchise given enough interest has been so important in the long-term development of first-party studios. Sucker Punch has had one of the most visible paths of improvement in Sony's entire portfolio. All of their games feel like spiritual successors to what came before while they were on their way to photorealism. Ghost of Tsushima couldn't exist in its current form without what was accomplished gameplay-wise during the PS3 and PS4 generations of releases. The acrobatic platforming routes take new form along the way, but by the time you were playing as Jin, you could still feel Sly in his soul. Sequels allow for perfecting of good ideas and result in better projects down the road. Ghost of Yotei has the ability to show why sequels often need to exist if one wants to achieve mastery of a genre. The open world genre is one that often requires the most iteration as there is so much more room to fail. As such, it is very disappointing when a new IP has to begin and end in one entry when it could have been on the edge of something great. A situation like Days Gone where the game is deeply flawed but has so much potential for easy improvement given the opportunity. There are very few open-world games that actually justify the space they take place in, but sometimes a singular idea forces a need. Being given a travel mechanic that speeds up the character's movement can justify large spaces if even for a moment. A car can be a character, a bike can be a character, or a horse you spend your entire journey with. It's important that one believes in the space they inhabit. You can so easily tell the difference between a world that feels like a set and one that feels like it breathes. Ghost of Tsushima justified its open world the moment the title card comes into frame. This story cannot be effectively told without being able to see the depth of the Mongol invasion at large. A great deal of Tsushima's flaws are solely the result of it being the first stab Sucker Punch took at having to fill a world at this scale with meaningful content. Even so, their first attempt came with more meaning than a great deal of their competition. If the Ghost series were to begin and end here and face the same fate as Days Gone, nothing would be gained. You often see studios move on to a new IP after what feels like mastery of a genre. Ghost of Yotei has that exact execution in their sights. Confidence is easily found in how Sucker Punch listens and adapts. In order to connect the dots to Yotei's upcoming mastery, look no further than Iki Island. Iki Island is an expansion that is as frustrating as it is relieving. Frustrating because so much exists on the island that would have benefited the core experience of Tsushima greatly. Relieving because Sucker Punch acted fast on any of the shortcomings the base game had. This DLC launching with this amount of improvement only 1 year after launch begs the question of what is this studio capable of after 5 years? One thing Tsushima nailed is their moment-to-moment stimulation in combat. Its stance switching system becomes so second nature over time that any feeling of mindless slashing doesn't occur because there's always something to be pressing. You start to flow like water as multiple enemies of different weapon archetypes approach from all angles. It's endlessly satisfying, especially on higher difficulties. When arriving on Iki Island, it becomes apparent these enemies have the ability to now change their weapons at will. It forces your attentiveness to constant stance switching, making the once mastered combat feel just a little bit new again, all still with just a katana. In Ghost of Yotei, you have a katana, a kusarigama, dual wielding, and a spear. Assuming all of these weapon types have 4 stances, alongside each weapon being a weakness for certain enemy types, this could be one of the most dynamic and kinetic melee systems ever crafted. On top of all of this, due to time advancement, Atsu has a matchlock rifle that, if given the ability to mix within the combos, can take it even further. A system that was already so stimulating has a chance to greatly raise its difficulty ceiling. In both of the trailers shown for Ghost of Yotei, there has been an underlying focus on a wolf that appears to follow around Atsu. It doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility that you may also be able to issue commands to it once a bond is formed. Something akin to Torgal in Final Fantasy XVI, with ideally more use cases. It would be a safe bet based on the overall trajectory of this sequel that the wolf and horse may have some form of bonding system. Similar to implementation in Red Dead Redemption 2, with Suckerpunch making it a bit their own via the wolf. Rockstar wanted to make you really feel the loss when your horse died, so they made it very possible. Iki Island brought a deeper feature set for Jin's horse. You could now charge into battle, decimating any number of enemies you put in your path. This is a means to speed up some of the battles, such as those that take place naturally along the road that had become fodder by now anyway. In addition, there was now horse armor to unlock that enhances the same strategy, and the ammunition you may pick up from their bodies had a new home via saddlebags. Another system that worked wonderfully for Rockstar, a reoccurring theme of many of the upcoming gameplay additions and influences. Ghost of Tsushima left so much room for Ghost of Yotei to improve on the fine details of gameplay immersion. Iki Island feels like a small step amongst the big ones that they've been taking during the development of this follow-up. You can get a sense of where else this game intends to improve via its recent ESRB rating appearing in the database. Amongst the gameplay features inadvertently announced within the rating description are many that cement this game's vision is one that intends to smartly follow in Rockstar's footsteps. There are next to no open world games that come close to capturing the immersive elements of Red Dead Redemption. While there is plenty of room for more AAA games placed in the Wild West, it's almost impossible to achieve what Rockstar was able to do. It's no doubt one of the reasons so few have even tried to attempt it. Suckerpunch through Ghost of Yotei has found a way to navigate around this by placing their narrative in a time period that feels beautifully adjacent to the lawless parts of late 1800s America. The only parts of these games that will be worth comparing are how alive the worlds truly are and what can you do within them to keep that illusion constant. ESRB states Ghost of Yotei will have its own bounty hunting system, not unfamiliar to the life of an outlaw. There is now an included dice game with assumed gambling elements. It's also possible to drink sake and even participate in drinking minigames. This is the type of side content that felt like it was missing from Tsushima. However, it was rightfully not included. There would have been no reason for Jin Sakai to be gambling, completing bounties, or getting drunk on sake. The island was in far more constant turmoil that wouldn't allow him that kind of peace. Yotei taking place in the time period it does is in large part why this being the idea for their sequel is brilliant. By default, Ghost of Yotei is going to feel larger than life compared to Tsushima just due to the raw amount of content being Atsu and having a different personality in life allows. A revenge plot usually doesn't have a timer attached to it. Your main goal being to take out the Yotei 6 will inevitably allow for much more time in between to get into all kinds of side content, all without feeling like it's compromising the pace of the game's final objective. Regarding Ghost of Yotei's gameplay and visuals, there just isn't anything to be concerned about. At any rate of progress, it will be monumental. They already have the baseline of something most open world games don't possess multiple entries deep. It's in character development and the balancing of purposeful side content amongst the already included moments of peace that require the biggest leap. And with all that is known, Suckerpunch seems to have it covered. It's always reassuring when a studio is able to easily identify areas of improvement and act on them. This game launches within an industry that lately can't seem to get out of its own way. There is so much redundancy to be found in many areas of development with AAA budgets that want a slice of a trend without offering new ideas or improvement. Ghost of Yotei wears its inspirations on its sleeve and looks to carve its own path amongst them. It's what worked for Suckerpunch when they arrived on PlayStation, and it's no different now.